Hi there. My name is Michelle Nicolo Prentice, and you're listening to Mama's Lullaby Podcast, where we celebrate you and your journey to and through motherhood, the good, the hard, and the scary, giving you a place to be nurtured and mothered. You deserve it. Welcome. Hey guys, it's Michelle. Please hit that like button and be sure to subscribe so we can keep you up to date on all the latest podcasts. Hi everyone, welcome to Mama's Lullaby Podcast. My name is Michelle Nicolo Prentice, and you are sitting in my kitchen with me. And on the Zoom here, all the way from Newcastle, Ireland, we have my dear friend Deirdre Maguire, who I am so excited to introduce you to. But first of all, I want to tell you a little bit about the goal at Mama's Lullaby Podcast. Number one, we want to honor and celebrate your journey to and through motherhood, however that shows up for you. We believe that mothers are the bedrocks of our society, and they deserve to be honored, to be loved, to be seen, and to be nurtured. And so the second part and goal of Mama's Lullaby is to bring amazing people that might help in some way in your life, however that might be. So today, that is one of these very special moments with Deirdre, because Deirdre is, she is one of those people, number one, the moment you meet her, you love her. And second of all, not everybody's going to have the opportunity to meet someone like Deirdre. And that's what I want to bring, people that maybe you wouldn't have an opportunity, or you wouldn't be in a place where you would meet someone like her. And so I'm going to ask Deirdre to tell us a little bit about herself, and we can talk a little bit about how we met many years ago. I believe we were trying to decide how long ago it was, but I think it was like 16 to 18 years ago. And it was in Oklahoma City when I was learning faster EFT, because it changed my life. One session changed my life. And I met you that day and that week. And I just really was like, oh, she's so cool. So that's been a long time.
It has. I wonder even how long ago it was. And I have memories of, getting on a plane, heading from Ireland on my own to Oklahoma. And, I had been to New York before. I had traveled, and I had been to New York and I'd been to LA. But I remember, people saying to me at the airport, why Oklahoma? What's in Oklahoma? Why are you going to Oklahoma? And I remember, landing there and seeing these men with cowboy hats, and they were real cowboys. I thought I was on a movie set.
Oh, that's so funny.
And little did I know then that it was to be the start of an epic journey for me, both personal, professional, and in the adventure sense. So many adventures, so many friends, so many exciting experiences. And and I remember being just touched by your warmth. You have a gift, a beautiful gift of warmth that touched me then. And, I might have put it into my hip pocket while I was getting on, while we were both getting on with the rest of our lives. But isn't it beautiful that you just dig in, you lift it? Oh, yeah, Michelle.
I love it. I love it. No,
It's
this whole
beautiful.
project has been, I believe, divinely guided. And so whenever I hear a name, I think of a person, I just follow it, because I feel like that is what I'm supposed to do. And it always turns out perfectly. So how can you go wrong if you're being guided by God? I just don't think.
Well, it's hard. It's hard.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I wanted to talk today about, some of the things that you do to help people. And specifically, we're talking to women at this point, but it's not just all for women. This is for people and humanity in general. But because Mama's Lullaby started with the focus of mamas, and to really help create sort of a community and a nurturing community for moms, because once we begin nurturing, we sort of don't get nurtured ourselves, and we are probably the last to put ourselves on the list. And so I really want to encourage women to take that time for them, because if mama goes down, the whole ship goes down. And so a lot of times people will say, oh, I don't have the time to take care of myself. I don't, I'm not going to spend money on myself for that. That's frivolous. And my children need this, that, and the other. But the truth is your children need you to be well, happy, and centered. And what Deirdre does is helps people do that in every aspect of their lives, because we all grow up in families that are doing the best they can with what they know and with what they hold and with what they have. And like, I didn't know that I could change things from my past. I didn't know I could change processes and belief systems and help clear up anxiety. I didn't know that was possible with a technique or with a mindset. And it's totally possible. So, and Deirdre, that's what you do for a living now, right?
Yeah, it's so interesting that, as I look behind me there, you can see my mother, the picture in the distance is my mum waving her hand. And it's interesting that my mum passed away a few years ago. And, to be honest, it's interesting that she actually, we are in my home and we are in my living room, and my mum we were told that my mum wasn't well and that she had a month to live, and we took her home out of the hospital and we put a bed into this room. And we, in true Irish style, we had a ceilidh for a month in this room. And eventually my mum actually died here. And I have a big set of double doors that look out onto the beautiful mountains of Mourne. And, when she died, I just opened the double doors and let her spirit out onto the
What a beautiful thing to do.
Oh, it was she was 80. And, that is not the way my relationship started with my mom. Back in the day when I didn't have the emotional coping skills that I have today, my relationship with my mom was contentious at times, because, we just didn't know how to deal with emotions.
Right.
As I now teach to people and as I learned for myself first, just as you said, Michelle, they're giving us the best they can. My mother gave me the best she could with what she had. And it wasn't always great, but it was all she had.
Right.
She couldn't teach me what she didn't know. She could
Exactly.
she couldn't give me what she didn't have.
That's
and
right.
I'm so blessed and so grateful that I got to do that with her. I actually ultimately I worked on my mom.
Oh, wow.
That was the ultimate gift, where I was able to help her release hurts and pains from her past that set her free. And in the end, she was so proud of me. And I have one of my favorite photos was taken at an event. It was actually here in Ireland. It was at a Robert Smith event, who is our mentor. And Robert Smith is from Oklahoma. He's the one I was going to see that day.
Me too.
So my favorite photograph is, and I'm on a microphone and she is watching and looking at me. And, that is such an indicator to me of how far we came within 2 generations, because the pain that we are carrying is multi-generational.
Yes.
And but the good thing about it is that when you know how the mind and body works, you can collapse old patterns of thinking. And sometimes you can do it in a nanosecond. In a moment, you can change your perception of your life, of your own value, of the way the world is. And when you change that, the world changes, and it's so interesting that I will say often to clients, there's nothing different, but everything has changed.
Yeah. And it does happen in a second, and it's lasting. It's done. It's like the flip. So when I had my session with Robert, so just quick information here, people. My dad also died at home when I was 10. And I remember he had cancer, and he had cancer really my whole life. I only knew him with cancer. So I saw a lot of scary things as a little kid. And in those days, nobody knew to like talk to us or help us understand kind of what was they did the best they could. They loved us but we were kids, and they didn't really prepare us in a way that we probably needed to be prepared. My dad talked about dying a lot so that we would know he was going to die, but it was almost worse, although he was a very positive person. But I had so much anxiety growing up, and I didn't even know what it was. I just knew I felt scared a lot. I felt nervous to go out of my house, not to go out of my house, but like go new places or whatever. And it just carried into my adulthood until I started having pure panic attacks at 21, 22. And like the real thing, like from the top of the head that goes down and you think you're going to die and throw up and have a heart attack and go crazy all at once. And I dealt with those for many, many years. And so it was probably 15 years later, maybe, or something like that, where I found Faster EFT in Robert Smith. And I started just watching the videos, and I started noticing shifts as I did what he did. I just kind of followed what he did. And so I had a session with him. And I paid a lot of money for that 2-hour session. I told my husband, I think this is going to help me. It was $1,200, and that was a lot for us to put out. But I was like, I think this is going to help me. And I didn't even notice it helped for 2 weeks until somebody said to me, did that thing work? And it was like, all of a sudden I realized for the last 2 weeks, I hadn't even thought about anxiety. Yeah. I was just in the moment all the time, and I didn't even notice it. And so it was so miraculous. That's why I signed up for the course, because I was like, oh, I have to know how to do this and help other people. And so if our parents would have had this, think of how different their lives would have been, and how different our lives would have been, and then how different our children's lives would have been, and go on and on, right? I mean, the generational healing. So that's what Mama's Lullaby is about, is helping people also. It's one of the parts, but helping people have generational healing so that we can each generation gets better and healthier and happier, and more, our society changes like that, right?
Well, it's beautiful for me at the moment. I don't have any children myself, but I have nieces and nephews, and I'm 69. I've never been older, never fitter, never happier, because I know that happiness is a skill. And, my days are filled with such joyous things. And one of them is CrossFit. And if you're not familiar with CrossFit, it is a very heavy duty workout. And I am the oldest one in it, but I am not I was going to say, but I'm fitter than some people. I'm not fitter than all of the people, but I'm doing well. And at the minute, my nephew owns it, and he created it. And there's a whole story around it, but he created it, and his brother and sister are in it, and my sister and I go, and there's a whole family of us in it. And, my sister and I were reflecting last week, how far we've come. It used to be, for me, cigarettes, alcohol, food were my addictions. Mm-hmm. They were my coping skills. Right. Those were the only skills that I had to help me to manage, navigate this, scary, painful, directionless life that I had. And there we are today. Now, this weekend, I'm just getting ready after this call to go and be part of a festival in Belfast, and it's called Happy Fest. And it's a mind wellness event, and I'm speaking at it. And my nephew is also speaking at it. We are sharing a platform.
Oh, wow.
And that's a long way from, my life was very, very different at a time. I'm very happy to report that my mom died peacefully in this house, but that is not the way my father died. 25 years ago, my father took his own life, and he was 72. He had all the boxes ticked. He had a wife who loved him, my mom. I'm the eldest of 5, and we all loved him. And he had grandchildren. He had started life poor and had built a number of businesses. He had financial success. He even had, I live in a very small town, and my parents both together, they built a furniture business, and they were highly thought of, highly esteemed in the town. We're a small community. So he had the love of the community. No, even that, but even that was not enough. None of it was enough to keep him here. So, dealing.
And because why? Because why? This is the thing I want to talk about. Why was that not enough?
Because the hurts and pains from the past were such in his life that in the end, a tortured soul, he went with the only option left to him, and he took his own life. He couldn't, no matter how hard he worked, no matter how successful he was, no matter how many people loved him, and everybody, they still talk about him in this town. Joe Maguire, great man. I often meet people who will talk about my father, but they didn't know the other part of him. They didn't know, and they're both gone now. So I can share that they were both sexually abused, both my parents, and it was never talked about.
Of course not.
I don't think my father ever talked about it. He told me one time, that a woman had actually sexually abused him as a child, and he was vulnerable because his father wasn't there, and he was a vulnerable child, and that is when it starts. Yep. Can you imagine at 5 years of age, this rupture in your life that you have no way of expressing or articulating? Yep. What do? You just park it, push it down, and then you think, oh, if I'll work harder, and then maybe I remember a part of the journey. I was actually working with my father in the business, and it was my daily task, my personal daily task, to see how happy I could help him to feel. This was an unconscious program that was running, that I just, as long as Daddy was happy, if Daddy was okay, then it was okay. Yeah. And of course, it was never enough. And so in the end, when my father died, there were two things I remembered. One was his child, like when he would come in to the shop. We call it a shop, you call it a store. America's called it a store. When he would come in, I would send him out to deliver. I was in charge of organizing, and I would say, right, Daddy, you go and deliver this coffee table piece of furniture to a house. And he would come back in, and I always remember him saying, aren't I a good boy? And I remember thinking, well, that's interesting, but I didn't know then what I know now.
Yeah. That
there was that little boy who was still looking for approval in some way, and not one part of his success was sufficient to keep him, to satiate that peace. That peace. And thank God today that I have, first of all, the ability to help myself, and secondly, the ability to, I was, just before I came on here, I was working with a client, two different women today, and one of them is going through such trauma at the minute. Her husband has attempted suicide again, and this has been the turning point for her. Yeah. She said that I can't do it anymore, so she's very, very vulnerable. But what I say to her and what I say to my clients, and when I'm delivering my talks, the lowest point is the turning point. Yeah. The lowest point is the turning point. The day my father, as we lower my father's coffin into the cold January earth, I have only one truth left, that I have failed. Oh, I couldn't save him.
You couldn't save him. Yeah.
So that was the lowest point in my life. But what if the lowest point is actually the turning point? The breakdown is actually the breakthrough.
Yeah, that's right. Well, that's a perfect example. For me, having a sick dad, I was always trying to save him, right? Trying to fatten him up because he was just dwindling down. So we'd make milkshakes and malted milkshakes and give him, everything we could think of. And then when he passed away, of course, at 14, I hook up with a man who is 9 years older than me, and I sought him out. Like I because
Yes.
I didn't understand the psychologicals of having a daddy that passed. I wanted a man that would protect me, and then I had hormones going on, right? And he ended up being my first husband and the father of my 2 children. But he also ended up being a very sad, unfortunate addict. So I was going to save him from his addiction as well, and I
Well,
did that.
that was perfect for
It
you.
was perfect, wasn't it? I mean, it's just how,
Perfect match.
and that's how it works, right? And he was abused at 6 years old. He was raped at 6 years old, and then abused beyond that. So this is just perfect, right? And this is how it works. And this is why it's so important that I think that we help people understand the power that is between our ears and the power of the past and how it runs our lives today. And how I remember being at the seminar at Roberts when I first was learning about it. And I remember thinking when he said, first of all, I want you all to know there's nothing wrong with any of you. You're working perfectly according to your programs, right?
Yep.
And I remember I had a friend who was abused by her boyfriend, and we worked so hard to get her out of that situation, and we got her out. And 2 months later, she was back in.
Back in.
And I remember going, okay, she must love to get beat. She must love it. Good, go for it, have it, enjoy it, right? What I didn't understand was that her first experience of love was a smack or a punch or whatever. And that's what the program was. Not that she liked it, but we can't change our programs without uninstalling them like a computer program, right? We can't, our brains are like computers, and we have these programs running in the background. We don't even know they're running, but that's how we perceive our lives, and it's how we do what we do, how we turn into our parents, the parts of our parents we don't like, but they're just doing what they know. It's so insidious. And
When,
yet,
when you think about, when I'm talking to clients, the simplest explanation of it is, when you're growing up and you're learning your words, and, you're told, this is a phone, this is red, this is yellow, this is
right.
blue, and this is love.
Yep.
And love is a smack. And that's your download, your definition of love, and you will seek it out. Even though, why do people get divorced 5 times? Why do they keep getting married? They keep marrying the same person. It may not be the same name,
Right.
but it is actually the same program.
Yes. So let's
The
talk about
program.
that, Deirdre. Let's help people maybe that don't know anything about this, and there's probably a lot of people who do, but let's talk to the people who don't know anything about what we're talking about. And can we just break it down to the basics of how we work and how to change it and what we can do? And what will that do?
Well, when I'm teaching people, what I explain to them is that we have a manual, okay, and imagine that when the central heating changes in the springtime here, and I have to change it, I haven't a clue. I'm looking at it going, I don't know what to do, and then I remember, oh yeah, that's right, I downloaded the manual the last time. So I get out the thing and I go and I follow the instructions of the manual. That's how I change the heating. So it's the same thing. We didn't come with a manual. Your mother, your father, they didn't know how you operate. We didn't know. So what I did was I put together a sequence. And I call it the manual of the mind body system. And basically, we come into the world, we have experiences. The experiences are stored as memories. Okay. Now, the memories hold up the beliefs that we have about life. Okay. Now, based on the beliefs that we have, we've got an identity. I'm Deirdre. I'm not Deirdre. They gave me that name. Okay.
Right.
But now I've got a name. I'm Deirdre. I've got an identity. I'm Irish. Okay. I'm not hula dancer. I'm not a Maasai warrior. Okay. I'm Irish. And now if I said to you red and black, you would go, doesn't mean anything. Well, to me, red and black is very important because those are the colors of my local football team. So they're my tribe. So we give meaning to everything based on our past experiences. So when you understand this is what I believe, that when you understand how you operate, what you need to do to change it becomes easier because it makes sense.
Yeah.
So when you understand we came into the world, we came into their world, they had their problems, and we put ourselves into context. So I was listening to the radio the other day, and there was a guy, it's actually a radio station that I myself now go on every Monday.
Yes.
I do my Mastery Monday. And so I was listening to the radio, and someone had called in about IVF. Mm-hmm. And they were talking about IVF, and this man was saying that he had remortgaged his house twice, and finally here came the twins, a boy and a girl. And I was thinking, oh my God, imagine if you were one of those twins. You would be precious, but compare that to, she is the eldest of 10, and she wants to be a teacher, but her mother keeps her at home to look after the other 9 children while the mother goes out to work. Or he is the eldest of 4, and his mother's got a religion problem, so there's no sex. So his father leaves, and he believes he is rejected. Well, that's my mom and dad. Okay. My mom was the eldest of 10. Her mother was pregnant with her. I'm an Irish Catholic. We were Irish Catholics. The shame, the guilt wrapped around all of that. My mother aspired to be, she was a very clever woman, but she couldn't be educated because they couldn't afford it. My father, was the eldest of 4. His dad was, I never met my grandfather. He was a beautiful man. There was problems. He left and went to England to get work, and he didn't come home. And my father adored his father. So what did he feel? Rejected. What did she feel? Not good enough. They meet and get together. And that is the context that I came into. Yeah. So, this is never a blame game, but we must look at this. We look at it with curiosity. Imagine that child compared to the IVF twins. So, what are your circumstances? How did you come into the world? Because who you are is a diamond. This is why I wear my diamond. I remind people who you are is beautiful. You are a miracle. Yeah. You are a miracle of life. You are life. You don't need to be religious. I don't consider myself religious at all, but I am very spiritual. And I understand now, I consider myself a recovering Catholic. Mm-hmm. Okay. Mm-hmm. I now have a connection and a relationship with Source. Call it whatever you like. Okay. God has had a lot of bad press. He might need a bit of rebranding because people go into trances. Yeah. We go into, because these downloads that we learned, I was raised by nuns, and there's all that stuff. So if we can drop all that, know your value, understand who you really and truly are, understand the circumstances.
Let's talk about trances for a minute.
Okay.
Because I know that's a really important thing to understand. Mm-hmm. That basically most of us are in a trance most of the day. Yeah. If we're not in the moment, we're in a trance, right? Mm-hmm. And in those trances, well, look, just, let's talk about trances.
So people, you say trance and people think it's a hypnotist and they make you cluck like a chicken.
Exactly.
And behave like a fool on the stage. So when you understand, for example, I'll give you an example of it. Happened to me yesterday. I broke my phone. Okay, so you can see those 2 beautiful lines on my phone. I dropped my phone, I broke it, and I went back to Apple yesterday to deal with the situation. And you can tell I am a capable woman. I know how to articulate. I know how to express myself. And I had the situation where I was saying to, the phone's only 3 months old. I paid a lot of money for it. And so this man is telling me, first of all, a young girl is telling me, well, no, it's going to cost $800 to change the screen, $800. And so So I said, well, no, that's not really what's going to happen here, because, and I start to deal with the situation. And she says, no, you're going to have to pay it. And I said, the goods are faulty. Why would I pay it? Let's pay it between us. I said, I dropped the phone, let's pay it between us. But she said, I said, what kind of guarantee is it? And she said, the manufacturer's warranty. And I said, okay, well, if there's a manufacturer's warranty, how do we know that this screen is not faulty? But she wasn't having it. So anyway, so that was okay. And I said, I need to speak to someone senior. So then came the man. Mm-hmm. Okay. So I started to deal with the situation with the man. Okay. And he was having none of it. He was quite rude. He was very dismissive. I felt very vulnerable. I broke my foot last week, and I have a boot on my foot at the minute. So I felt vulnerable. And so I started to go into a trance. In that moment, I am not present. Okay. What is actually going on is my mind-body system has gone into fight or flight. There's an alarm going off. This is dangerous. Okay. Now, there are a million reasons why this is dangerous. And one of them is this is a man. I am dealing with a man. Okay. Mm-hmm. Now, consciously, that doesn't mean anything. But subconsciously, below conscious awareness, I have references in what I actually call the black box, the black box recorder on a plane. Yeah. Well, this is the way I refer to it. We all have black boxes within us that record everything to keep us safe. So in that moment, all the references that I have in there, and my father was a very angry man at times, and he was physical. He was violent, and he was also a very good and kind man, but he was cross and angry. So because I felt vulnerable in many ways because of my foot and a whole lot of things, this was triggered. So in that moment, I am in a trance. Mm-hmm. In other words, I'm not present. I am in fight or flight. I actually feel threatened. It's a difficult situation, and I feel threatened. And so does that explain what it feels like to be in a trance? You're not at optimal in your mind, because in that moment I was like a little girl. I actually go back to when I was shouted at by the big man. And it is funny because I was actually sitting down and he was towering above me and he was shouting at me and he was very firm and pointing a finger. So in that moment, the fight or flight response activates. It says there's danger here and I am not present. So when that happens and you don't know what to do,
right?
Okay, it's not that I'm 20 years, 25 years doing this work. It's not that it doesn't happen. But the difference is that when I removed myself from the situation and I sat quietly listening to my own heart beating, feeling very vulnerable, I carried out a pattern interruption. We have gone into a pattern of thinking. So what we do in Fast 3FT teaches, and I teach with my stress solution system, is to actually do the weirdest thing you would ever think, but this is what it is. Okay. It's a pattern interruption. So you're not present in that moment. So what you've got to do is you've got to interrupt the pattern by giving your brain something else to do, which is this, while instructing your brain to let it go. Okay. So this is what you do. You tap, and it doesn't matter whether you do one hand or two hands, but you do this, you pattern, and you say, I let this go. I let it go. I just let it go. Whatever it is, you don't need to figure it out. Whatever it is, wherever it came from, I let it go. Okay. And then you take a deep breath in, you blow it out, you grab onto your wrist, and you say the word peace.
Peace.
Okay. And you think of something peaceful. Think about something you're grateful for, your children, your dog, your life, your health, whatever it is, you redirect your thinking. Okay. So let's go back again. This is happening to me. I'm in fight or flight. I need to interrupt the pattern. So I do it by, first of all, giving the brain something else to do.
Did you do this in front of him?
No.
Okay. What did you do? How did you get away? What did you do?
I removed myself. I
Okay.
said, I'm very disappointed. I'm really disappointed with the situation, and I will be in touch. So
Okay.
there was nothing I could do. I can't
Right.
change him.
Right.
I can't do, but I can take care of myself
Okay.
by moving myself from the situation. And it's so interesting because I walked back to my car. I limped back to my car with a broken foot. I limped back to my car and I sat in my car and I just tapped. I did my pattern interruption, and I felt all the feelings that were coming up. Now, what was presenting in the moment was the difficult man.
Yeah.
But actually, when I sat and let it go right back, the trail always leads back to what you learned as a child, where you learned it, and what was actually driving the whole thing. I mean, I could have paid that. I had the money. I could have paid, but it was a principle. But the other thing that was the real driver behind it was that I felt guilty because I had just bought this phone and spent like $2,000 on the phone. So I actually felt guilty, even though I have the money. I actually felt guilty for spending the money on the phone, for being indulgent. And then I was a bold girl, as we say in Ireland. Okay, you don't say that there. A naughty girl. I was a bold girl, which is childlike talk. It goes back to when I was a bold girl as a child. And I felt guilty because I had spent them extravagantly, spent the money, and then broken the thing.
So that was from childhood. Those were things you would have heard in your home as a child.
Oh God. Yeah, my father used to say, we'll have to leave it to Deirdre in wee bits because she spends it. I have tapped on that many times and overcome a lot of it.
Yeah.
I enjoy a good life, and I enjoy financial health, and I've really done a lot of work around that.
Yeah.
But you see, in that vulnerable moment, a little bit of it showed up. A little bit of it showed up. So what did I do? I came home, I sat in the car and I tapped and I asked myself, can you love yourself in this moment, Deirdre? Can you love yourself through this? Because actually what I'm doing is beating myself up, punishing myself.
Right.
Ultimately, I believe you spoilt girl. You shouldn't have had the phone. You shouldn't have dropped the phone and all of that. You see, so does that make sense?
It makes total sense. And you're talking to really your little inner child. That's who you're really talking to, right? And that's the thing. It's like we say things like, I heard someone say, our children don't do what we say. They behave the way they treat themselves, like they saw us treat ourselves. And boy, if that is not the truth, like my mom used to say, do as I say, not as I do. And it's just the opposite. We do as they do, not as they say, because
we model them.
We do. We model them. And when you don't want your kids to hate their bodies, and you're standing in front of the mirror going, God, I'm so fat, I look terrible. I watch this with my goddaughter and her beautiful mama. They're beautiful, beautiful women. And I watch her mom do this to herself. And then she watches her daughter. And we're all like, please, it's so insidious. And it happens in a blink of an eye. And if you're not aware, and even if you are aware, like you or like I,
Yeah.
it doesn't mean you're immune from it. It just means that you have some tools now to deal with, and you do catch it at a certain point. But if
Yeah.
you're not aware at all, oh my goodness, I mean, that's what runs us all, right?
And the beauty of it is that when you do become aware and you do change it, that's why I love my work. Yeah, I love it, especially when someone comes in for the first time and they've no idea and they've no clue,
Yes.
and their life's in the toilet and there's no way out, and oh my Lord, oh my Lord. And then 2 hours, we do a 2 hour session, and they're a bit punch drunk sometimes, but
Yes.
because what we're doing is actually rewiring the brain. It's emotional surgery. We're releasing all this years of pent up patterns, programs that really debilitate us. And that's why my tagline is "Your freedom is my promise." Because it absolutely is. That's like the event. I'm running an event we were talking about this before we came on air, about an event that I'm running for the second time in Belfast in September. And I call it the freedom event, because this is how to get free. But freedom isn't free. Freedom is not free. You've got to do the work. And that's why, like when I explain the manual, that you're actually simply just producing a result.
Right.
You come into the world, you have the experiences are stored as memories, you form a belief, you create an identity, you think a thought, you feel a feeling, you take action, you produce a result.
Right.
You are a success every single time.
That's right. You're always a success. That's a great.
Yeah. Even though it's not the result you want, that
Right.
was successful.
Sure.
When I was dealing with Mr. Appleman, that was a success based on my previous references.
Right.
The system works every time, but the thing is, what's in the system? What is in it? And you can change it. So I can't change Mr. Appleman.
No.
I can change my response to him, or I can use the opportunity. Thank you, Mr. Appleman, because you have highlighted a little bit that I missed. I've cracked a lot of it, but I found a little bit. And the piece for me, and I always say this because in case someone listening is just like me, in that moment, the level of my self-loathing is so high. That's why a lot of the time why we get so defensive. Mm-hmm. Like I meet people like me, and when we get defensive, we get we get prickly. But the reason, if there's someone who's prickly in your office where you work, or if your husband is prickly or whatever, if that person is prickly, they're prickly for a reason. There's 100%. There's a vulnerability underneath 100%. That. Yeah. And when you know that, number two, your response to them is different. You don't react, you respond. And then the energetic exchange between you shifts, the vibration shifts, and then you can actually start to recover from, previous imprints.
Let's talk about the impact of moms doing this work for themselves, and then the impact on their children, and even their family relationships, and then their children's children, and then our society. We have about 10 more minutes, but I know we are going to have many other conversations, I have a feeling, because like I said, we could talk about this for hours and hours and hours and hours. There's so much to talk about. But in our first talk, I just want to give women out there, and again, it's not just women, it's men too, but we're focusing on moms and women, and not even just moms, a lot of women, even though you didn't bear a child, you mother people all the time. We mother people, and we mother other people's children. An auntie, if you're an auntie, or you're my kids have loved and known all my best friends, and they're like they can go talk to them about things they couldn't talk to me about. Thank God we need that community, right? We need those sage women and those other women for our children. But let's talk about what could happen, Deirdre, if Mama's Lullaby could help, let's say, 1 million moms.
Oh my Lord.
Change and understand their minds and clean up the trauma and help them create the lives they want. How could that affect a family and then generations down the line?
Well, I spoke at the top of this. We spoke about the effect. I could see the effect of one generation. I started the work, then I worked on and and they followed me, my 4 brothers and sisters.
That's wonderful.
It's unreal. I have a niece in Australia who is now doing breath work. I have a nephew here. He's speaking on the same platform. It's incredible. And that's they say that when a butterfly flaps its wings in China, it's the impact, we feel it here. And never underestimate the power of a word, or when you think about, I remember the day my mother said, I never forgot the day my mother said. So that is one sentence that changed your life. So that is the power of this work, that a little of it goes a long way.
Yeah, it does.
A little of it goes a long way. And when I get excited about it, when I think about the trauma that's in the world at the minute, and I know in my heart that the more people know about this work, the day will come. There will be no need for war. There will be no need for soldiers. There will be no call for it, because we will have moved from emotional dinosaurs to emotional stalwarts, where we have control of our, it wasn't Mr. Appleman, it was me. That's where the power lies. Viktor Frankl said, between the stimulus, Viktor Frankl was a Jewish psychologist who was imprisoned in Auschwitz, and he survived it, and he wrote a book called Man's Search for Meaning. Fabulous. And he says, between the stimulus and the response, there is a gap. Herein lies our freedom. So it's not what's going on in the world, it's what we're doing with our mind and our response to the world that will change the world. So far from feeling powerless, this is so many people feel powerless. They feel, what can I do? If Gaza is rife at the minute, and you look at it and go, what can I do? Well, you can't go to Gaza, you can't do anything about that, but you can show up as a better person. You can be kinder. You can take time to respond. You can put the phone down and go for a walk, go into nature, and those little incremental steps, that's what changes the world. And each one of us has the power to do that without exception.
Well, if you think about the state of the world we're in, right? If all of those people, all the players that are running our world, right? And some of them, they're faceless people. We don't even know who they are, right? They have some pretty crazy ideas, I think. But if those people, who knows what their childhoods were like, right? I mean, we can kind of guess what their childhoods were like, right? But imagine where we are is just a culmination of the past, right? And in order to get to a different future, we have to see the truth regardless of appearances. And that is probably one of the hardest things to do. But in our work, when we do future pacing, or I call it a future diary, writing a letter from the future, from your future self, as though your life is exactly how you want it to be now. And then practicing that. It sounds like you're lying to yourself, you're making something up, and you are, but you're making something up anyway. So if you're going to make something up good. And I have done so many of those future diaries, and they have been, I'm dealing with one right now that I wrote 5 years ago that is happening right now as I sit here with you. And at the time when I wrote it, it seemed pretty far-fetched. Okay. And I have them. I can prove it. And so teaching people their own power that they hold, that we are given, we're created by a creator, so we are creators, right? And so there's so many wonderful parts to this process, and this is one of the things we want to offer on Mama's Lullaby. And if you are interested in having a session with Deirdre, where can they go to look you up? And we'll have this information in the liners below of this video, but where should they go to get in touch with you, Deirdre, if you'd like to work with Deirdre?
Well, DeirdreMaguire.com. It's DeirdreMaguire. DeirdreMaguire.com is my website, and it's DeirdreMaguire.com on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, all the socials.
And your podcast is awesome too. And that's on your website, correct? I love your podcast.
My podcast, did you love it? Did you get that Irish accent?
I love it. I love both of you guys, but you're so good. You know, he thinks he's going to get you, and it's just, you guys are a perfect match for each other. You know, it's perfect. It's just beautiful. It's so uplifting, and it reminds me, right? It reminds me, because I mean, I've been doing this work a long time now. If I'm going to be honest with you, I don't work on myself as much as I used to, and I need to. You know, I have physically been tapped on by somebody one time.
Is that it?
I do it over Zoom, you know, if I have
done it. Okay.
But you know, to have somebody do it for you, ooh, that's a whole other story. That's very nice.
Yes. And we used to, back in the day, we used to do a thing called Crossfire. Do you remember?
I never had one, but yes, I would love to have one.
Oh my Lord, that was so good, because just, I know I'm aware of the time, but just imagine two people. So what we would do is the person sitting in the middle, and there would be a practitioner on either side. And then when you start to go into the story of your trance, which you have an idea now of what it kind of is, and then we start to collapse it, you know, we confuse the mind. It's great fun. It's, you know, you might think, oh God, that's heavy. No, it's really great fun. And you end up sitting laughing at stuff, you know, because it's so ridiculous. Some of the stuff is so ridiculous. And yes, I love that. And but yes, it's very, very important to do it. And I have a community, an online community of, it's not supposed to be women only, but it has ended up women only. It was never designed that way. But it's a great, the freedom community, of course. And we meet every week live on Zoom. And I have people from all over, from America, from Africa, from Australia, from Ireland, from just up the road, and from all over the place. And, you know, we need support. We need to support each other and on this great adventure.
Yes, 100%, 100%. Oh, Deirdre, okay, we have to talk again, because one is not enough.
Well, I just want to say thank you so much for inviting me today. I have thoroughly enjoyed it. You can tell I'm, like I was saying to you, you could go away, raise 3 children, come back, and I would still be out here.
That's beautiful, because everybody's different, and everybody needs something different. You know, we're not carbon copies, and you need someone who can move and flow with whatever happens with that person, and whatever because someone might be thinking, well, you don't know my circumstances. I mean, my circumstances are, you know, and it's like, oh no, there's nothing that would shock us, nothing. And it's no judgment, because it's a memory. It's something that happened. It's not happening anymore, but we can change memories and make them, it's like, I call it like scratching a record, right? Because if you scratch a record enough, you can't play it anymore. And when we have something happen.
So what people, just to say, people kind of think, well, how do you do that? You can't do that. So say, for example, I always use my father's death as an example.
Okay.
My father took his own life. You know, we don't change. I know my father took his own life.
Right.
But what we do is we take the emotional charge out of it.
Right.
And when
out of the memory.
Yeah, it's like taking the air out of a balloon. It's like lancing a boil. Suddenly, instead of thinking, oh, it was my fault, I'm not good enough, I should have helped him, blah, 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 and all the beliefs that surround that keep it alive and keep you guilty, then when we release all that, you go, okay, yes, my father died, and I can be at peace you know, I can be at peace, because the truth about it is, if I reframe it, if my father hadn't died then, I wouldn't be talking to you now.
Right.
So let's take that perspective from it, that it was a painful thing, but it's over and there's nothing we can do about it, but we can live from it in a different way. We can use the pain to create the purpose.
Yeah, and have peace again. Yeah, it's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing. Well, if you have enjoyed this today, please make sure you like and subscribe, and go to mamaslullaby.com, download the music. There's 2 volumes worth of beautiful lullabies that we co-wrote with the best of the best in Nashville: Amy Grant, Mike Reed, Marcus Hummin, Linda Davis, and many, many more. These are songs that are specifically to calm, soothe, and relax. And there are some funny ones, and there are some really just very soothing songs and some very poignant songs. So I hope that if you love this idea and you want to support this, the way we support music anymore is to download the music, because streaming, literally, there is no way to support a musician on a streaming budget. It's just a different thing. So, but you can also stream it. It's all online, all the places that you stream. But anyway, Deirdre, thank you so much again for being here. It has been so beautiful, such an honor. I love your spirit. I love what you do. And I can't wait to come to Ireland to sing.
No. We will hold that thought. We will hold that vision. Yeah. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for inviting me. I'm privileged to be here. And let's talk again soon.
Yes, definitely. DeirdreMaguire.com. Do not hesitate to reach out to her. And we will see you on the next episode of Mama's Lullaby Podcast. Have a great, great day.
Beautiful.
I give myself permission to let the housework go, and feel zero guilt if someone should stop by to say hello. This newborn baby business is harder than it looks, 'cause this is real life, yeah, it ain't Hollywood.